Well, it's perfectly clear to me right now the Cincinnati Bengals should petition to join the NFC. They're 2-0 against the NFC after a win against the New York Football Giants. And boy, the Bengals have been in shootouts. I mean, high-scoring affairs and coming up just a play short. And everybody thought, man, this could be the exact same thing in New York. Well, it turned into a defensive slobber knocker, really. I mean, 7-0 at the half. That football game was very, very physical. There's no doubt about that. Two good defenses. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals stepped up defensively and made multiple plays. How about the Cincinnati Bengals score on their first possession? They score on that 47-yard touchdown jaunt by Joe Burrow. And how about Joe Burrow? All those sprints that he ran in the offseason and all the work that he did, training camp. He would run extra gassers for a conditioning standpoint. All the strength training, everything he did in the offseason, the conditioning and running that he did, the stuff that he did at training camp, it paid off. I mean, he looked really fast on that 47-yard touchdown scamper. He made a quick decision. You know, they were in man coverage, and he knew based on the patterns that were being run, the routes that were being run, he might have that big cavity. And when he saw it, boy, boom, he was gone. He was off to the races. They score on that drive. He has a 10-yard run. He has a 47-yard run in that possession. So 57 to 69 yards are Joe Burrow on the ground. And when's the last time that we saw a game in today's National Football League where both quarterbacks were the leading rushers for their football team? I mean, that's pretty remarkable. Jones was the leading rusher for the Giants. Joe Burrow, the leading rusher for the Cincinnati Bengals. After that particular possession, though, the Bengals punt 5 straight possessions, 5 of them. 3 of the 5 are 3-and-outs. I mean, their longest drive was a 7-play, a 5-play, 33-yard possession. They had a 7-play, 27-yard possession. I mean, it was a meat grinder trying to get it done against this New York Football Giant football team. And then the first possession of the second half, they fumble. They fumble the football. So 5 straight punts to end the half, and then come out in the second half, your first possession, you fumble the football. Man, that was a tough stretch. But the Giants, equally ineffective in the first half. 4 of their first 5 possessions are punts. And they have an interception in there in the red zone sandwiched in there. And then they kneel on it to end the half. So, I mean, their longest possession was 8 plays, 48 yards. They get in the red zone, throw the interception. Neither football team could get on track offensively, and the defenses had a lot to do with that. 7-0 football game at the half. The bottom line, the difference in this football game, in my opinion, were explosives. The New York Giants' longest play from scrimmage was 15 yards. They did not have one 20-yard play in the football game. Now, they did have 4 15-yard plays, but when you don't have any explosives, any plays of over 20 yards in the running game or the passing game, that's a pretty good defensive effort. The Bengals had 5 explosives, and that is the difference in the football game. 2 of them were runs, 47-yard run by Joe Burrow, 30-yard burst by Brown up the gut, great adjustment by Frank Pollock. They ran a running play that wasn't even in the game plan, but they'd run quite a few times in training camp and during the course of the first few games of the season. So he implemented it, and it broke. It broke big. 30 yards, touchdown. Chase Brown, he would have hit his head on the goalpost, basically. It's the only way he got stopped. So they're 2 explosive runs. When you have explosive runs that go for touchdowns, that's big. And that ended up being the difference in the football game. They scored two touchdowns. Neither quarterback threw a touchdown pass. Bengals scored 2 touchdowns on the ground and kick a field goal and win the football game. So it was a very, very different football game than people expected. Back to the possessions. In the second half, the New York Giants, they started taking command though. Their last drive of the third quarter was 16 plays. That's their touchdown drive. They go 61 yards for a touchdown. 7 first downs on that drive. That's pretty crazy. I mean, they basically sustained a lot of third down conversions, did a good job. The next possession, they go 11 plays, and they get no points out of it. They go 42 yards, but they miss a field goal. And then the very next possession, 10 plays for 53 yards, and they get stopped on downs. 5 times the Giants go for it on 4th down. The Bengals stop them 2 times. That's like 2 additional takeaways. In the turnover ratio, it was even. Both teams had a takeaway and a giveaway. But the Bengals on these 4th down stops, they end up going +2. In a tight football game like this, I thought that was a big deal as well. But their 3 last possession of the 3rd quarter and first 2 possessions of the 4th, they 37 plays. 37 plays in 3 possessions, and all they get out of it is 7 points. That's the ultimate bend but don't break defensive performance right there. There's no question. And then their final possession, eight snaps, 26 yards, and they missed another field goal. They missed 2 field goals. I think one was 45, one was 47. So the Cincinnati Bengals defense, 7 points allowed, best this year by far. Offensively, they did just enough. They made enough big plays, explosive plays, to ultimately decide the football game. But the Bengals ran 22 less snaps than the Giants. The Giants ran 74 plays and just over 300 yards, 309 yards, 4.2 yards per play, not per rush, per play. That's pretty paltry. Bengals 52 snaps, 22 less, 304 yards, and they had 5.8 yards per play, which is substandard for them as well. Time of possession, the Bengals ran 2 more plays than the Giants did and had a time of possession advantage in the first half. It ended up for the game about an 8-minute time of possession advantage for the Giants and 22 snap advantage. So they ran 20 more plays than the Bengals did in that second half. And the defense, you talk about getting some football conditioning done. Whew. I mean, at the end of that football game, I'm sure they feel like they could conquer the world now in terms of football fitness because they were tested. There's no question. Giants only had 2 penalties for 9 yards. They didn't hurt themselves at all with the penalties. Bengals had a cheap holding call on Volston that nullified a touchdown. That was big. They had 6 penalties for 67 yards. The longest play that the Giants had of the day was an 18-yard interference penalty. I mean, that's their longest play, other than the 15-yard plays that we talked about before. So red zone, the Bengals only got there 1 time. They didn't score a touchdown on that, and the Giants got there twice, scored a touchdown, and they got intercepted. So it was it was definitely a game dominated by defense. There's no question. The New York Giants defensive line, though, seeing them in person, I'm even more convinced they're legit, to say the least. You watch them on tape, and it's like, oh, that's impressive. You see them in person, you see their explosiveness, you see their quickness, you see them attacking. That's a handful. And they got 4 sacks in the football game. The Bengals got 2. So the Giants, over the last 4 games, now have 20 sacks. They have 26 on the season, 20 of them in the last 4 games. So this defensive football team is basically led by the boys up front. That position group is the most talented and deepest position group that the Giants possess. Thibodeau didn't even play, and they still accumulated the numbers they accumulated on the defensive side of the football. So it was a game that the Bengals had to have. They had to get it done. A couple of people, I talked to B.J. Hill after the game. He was one of my linemen, the first star logistics lineman of the game. B.J. Hill was very, very effective. Of course, he was drafted in 2018 in the 3rd round by the Giants, and he wanted to prove something. 7 tackles, 2 quarterback hurries. He defended 2 passes. He tied for the team lead in passes defense in the game. He knocked a couple of passes down, and Cam Taylor-Britt did the same. So he had a very strong football game. Trey Hendrickson, 2 more sacks. Now he's got 5 on the season in 6 games. So he was effective off the edge as well. Tyson Anderson got a game ball for his performance on special teams. I thought that was a big factor as well. I thought the Bengals punted the football very effectively, and I thought they covered those punts extremely effectively. The hang time was there. The Gunners could get good coverage. Very, very minimal field position advantage for the Giants. But it was interesting to watch that part of it. I thought the Darren Simmons group stepped up and played effectively. Pratt had the interception and returned it over 20 yards. He also had a sack that was nullified by penalty in that one series right before the interception that he had that was tipped by B.J. Hill. He had a sack, and D.J. Turner had a defensive holding penalty that was called and nullified that sack. So going to have to play a lot cleaner. Obviously, you've got plenty of football games left where you're going to be playing at a higher level of competition, but to go on the road and get it done in New York, I think is a positive sign. But next up is Cleveland. Get a division win. Don't have a division win yet. Don't have an AFC win yet. So go on the road, beat the Cleveland Browns. That's been a little bit of an Achilles heel for the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. And for whatever reason, Cleveland's offensive line is not living up to expectations this year. I always thought the interior of that offensive line was about as good as there was in football, center and both guards. I think that's going to be a big challenge for the Bengals interior. It was good to get all the defensive tackles back and have a full rotation for the first time all year. The 4 defensive tackles that you hoped you were going to have to split snaps, it hadn't happened all year. It showed up yesterday against the Giants. It's got to show up against the Cleveland Browns as well. And, man, I'll tell you, they've played against Chris Jones as the offensive line, Dexter Lawrence. And now all you have to do is play against Myles Garrett, who probably will line up here, there, and everywhere up and down the line of scrimmage. That's what he's done in the past. I haven't studied that much tape yet to see what they're doing with him, but he is a force. And that's life in the National Football League, particularly in the AFC. They got Dallas this year again. They have Micah Parsons. They have T.J. Watt, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Myles Garrett, the Cleveland Browns. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens have plenty of defensive players you have to worry about. They've already played them, obviously, and did a pretty good job against that defensive football team. So, it's the Cleveland Browns are struggling with Deshaun Watson to get some momentum and get some rhythm offensively. You can't sleep on them, though. I mean, you don't want to be the team that they have the breakout game against, and particularly being a division opponent. They're going to be up in the bit for this football game. And this defensive line, Tomlinson is nothing to sneeze at inside as well. They have Denzel Ward on the back end. They have a really good secondary. Newsome back there, Emerson, Delpit, Thornhill. I mean, they play a lot of nickel package. It's basically their base defense, and you're going to have to be able to run the football against that nickel package and anchor them a little bit, and then get up there and run the football effectively. So it's going to be a challenge up there. There's no question about it. But that's what you have to get done. It's the next one on the schedule. Cincinnati Bengals, I think, will bounce back offensively. The New York Giants did a really good job with their front four, obviously, but on the back end, they were playing a lot of coverages that were a little bit different for the Bengals to decipher. They ran some different zone concepts, and I thought a big deal was that T. Higgins had to step up in the football game against the Giants because historically, when Jamar Chase has a big game, the next opponent will find multiple ways to cloud coverage, bracket Jamar Chase, and that's exactly what the Giants did. They clouded him with a safety in a corner. They basically took him out of a lot of plays during the course of the football game. But T. Higgins did step up. He was targeted 7 times against man coverage when he was singled up. He had every single one of them he caught, 77 yards, long play of 24. So Cincinnati Bengals, those 5 explosive plays ended up being the story of the football game. The 47-yard run by Joe Burrow, 33-yard pass to Chase, the 30-yard touchdown run by Chase Brown, and Jamar Chase obviously with the 33-yard reception. 29-yard play to Yosivas, which was big. I mean, the touchdown run for Joe Burrow was on 3rd and 18. Can you believe that? 3rd and 18, he busted for 47. 3rd and 12, he goes deep to Yosivas on the left side of the football field right at the sideline for 29 yards and a big play. and then the 24-yarder to T. Higgins. So 5 explosives by 5 different players. That was the difference in a very, very hotly contested, very physical, tight football game. So now, on to Cleveland. Bengals offense get back in rhythm like they'd been for the last month. The Giants got them out of rhythm. The Bengals never really did establish it and find that kind of rhythm that they'd been in offensively. They got to get back to that on the road against the Cleveland Browns and get their first division win.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.